Hi everyone, it's me, Taehyung. If you're watching this right now, whether you're a fan who has been with me since the beginning, someone who just discovered me, or someone who simply clicked out of curiosity, thank you for being here. I know you've seen me on big stages, world tours, award shows, and music videos. You've heard my voice, you've seen my smile, and you've watched me grow. But tonight, on The Tonight Show, I want you to see something different, not V from BTS, not the polished artist with perfect answers, but the real Kim Taehyung sitting in front of you with a heart that's finally ready to speak. To every fan watching all around the world, I want you to know I feel your love. I felt it every year, every comeback, every moment I step on stage. You cheer for me during my happiest days, and you protect me when things get difficult. Sometimes I wonder if I could ever repay that love, because no matter what I do, it never feels enough. But I want to try, and tonight is part of that. I want to share something I've kept inside for a long time, something deeply personal, something I was always afraid to say because I didn't want to disappoint you or hurt you. I could feel the cameras on me long before the interview started. The lights were warm, even comforting, but my heartbeat was louder than anything around me. Every time the audience screamed my name, I smiled, but inside I was preparing myself for a moment I had avoided for years. When Jimmy hugged me before we went live, I pretended to be relaxed, but the truth was, tonight, I wasn't here as an idol. I wasn't here as a performer. I was here as Kim Taehyung, a man with something he needed to say. Sitting on that sofa, I looked at Jimmy and tried to read whether he already sensed it. He has always had this ability to feel emotions before people speak them. That's something I admire about him. He wore his usual playful grin, but the curiosity in his eyes was much louder. He knew something was coming. I kept folding my hands, unfolding them, then folding them again. Not because of nerves, because I was finally ready. Jimmy started light, as expected. He joked about how long it had been since I was last here, about how the audience had been waiting for me like I disappeared to another planet. The audience laughed, and I laughed with them, but the seriousness inside me never faded. I could feel this invisible countdown inside my chest. The closer I got to the moment I had to speak, the more everything else felt blurry. Then Jimmy said it. Taehyung, we've talked a lot about career, music, and success. But tonight, I want to ask something different. And I think the world has been waiting for this too. Are you ready? In that instant, the room became silent. Even the audience didn't dare make a sound. I swallowed, slowly. I wasn't afraid. I was relieved. For once in my life, I didn't want to hide behind the image of an idol. I didn't want to pretend to be untouchable or distant. I wanted to speak like a person who loves and dreams just like everyone else. Yes, I answered. My voice sounded steady, but I could feel a tremor beneath it. Jimmy paused, almost as if he didn't want to say it out loud. Not because he didn't want answers, because he didn't want to hurt me. And that meant a lot. Taehyung, everyone wants to know about your future partner, about marriage, about love. If you had one chance to say something real to the world about the person you want to spend your life with, what would you say? My breath hitched. The question wasn't shocking. Of course, it would come. But hearing it out loud right there, where millions of people were watching, that was a different story. I could feel my heart pounding inside my throat, not because I wanted to hide the truth, but because this was the first time I was going to speak honestly, without filters, without fear of judgment. I looked down for a moment and reminded myself, I'm allowed to love. I'm allowed to dream of a future that isn't only about stages and cameras. I lifted my head again and stared directly into the lens. If I was finally going to say this, I wanted to say it to everyone, not just Jimmy. The truth is, I paused because my voice began to shake. I already know what kind of person I want to share my life with. Jimmy's eyes softened instantly. He didn't speak, he didn't even blink. He let me continue. My future partner isn't someone perfect. They don't have to be famous. They don't need to understand everything about the industry. They don't need to fit into the expectations the world places on people around me. I want someone who sees me, not Taehyung the idol. Someone who understands that I get tired, that I get lonely, that sometimes I just want to disappear from everything and be held. Someone who won't love me because of the stage, but despite the stage, I could hear people in the audience gasping softly. It wasn't the kind of love confession people expected. It was raw. It was mine. My future partner is someone who chooses Kim Taehyung first. Not the fame, not the spotlight, not the image, just me. Jimmy lowered his head, his lips trembling, like he was trying not to cry too soon. I've been afraid to say this for a long time, I continued, because no matter who I love, people will judge, people will compare, people will fight, and I don't want the person I love to suffer because of me, because of my name. I felt my chest tighten. It hurt to say it, but it was the truth. But one day, I want to get married. I want to wake up next to someone I trust, someone I protect, someone who protects me. I want to be a husband. And I want my partner to feel proud that they chose me and I chose them. That was when Jimmy lost it. A tear rolled down his face before he could stop it. He tried to laugh it off, but the emotion was too strong. He looked at me with so much sincerity it almost broke me. Taehyung, he whispered, you deserve that love. In that moment, the stage didn't feel like a stage anymore. It felt like a confession room shared between two humans. One speaking, one listening, millions silently witnessing. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. Jimmy wiped his face quickly, embarrassed that tears had already escaped so early in the conversation. The crew didn't cut the camera. Nobody dared to interrupt. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was sacred. I stayed still for a moment, not because I didn't know what to say next, but because I wanted the room to breathe. It felt like everyone had been holding their breath with me for years. Jimmy let out a soft exhale and leaned closer. When you talk about love the way you do, it doesn't sound like fantasy. It sounds like you already have someone in mind. His voice wasn't teasing, it was gentle, honest, and just like before, he didn't lower the emotional intensity. He wanted to understand. He wanted the world to understand. I clenched my hands together on my lap. I didn't want to run away from the question. Not tonight, not anymore. There is someone, I admitted silently at first, not as a shock factor, not as a reveal to make headlines, but because the truth didn't deserve to be hidden anymore. I don't know when the world will know her name. I don't even know if the world ever will. But yes, my heart has chosen someone. The audience didn't scream. They didn't gasp. They stayed frozen, listening with admiration and maybe a little heartbreak. I knew many people love me in their own way. Some adored me deeply. Some supported me fiercely. And even though my confession might hurt them a little, I hope they could also feel the sincerity behind my words. Jimmy rested his chin on his hand, looking at me like he was watching history happen, because maybe he was. What made you fall for her? He asked softly. I looked up, not at him, not at the audience, but at the back of the studio, where a tiny blinking red light marked the top of the camera. It reminded me that millions were watching. Still, I didn't feel afraid. I felt for her because she didn't want anything from me, I said. She didn't want the spotlight. She didn't want fame. She didn't want me to be perfect. She cared about my feelings before my status. When I'm tired, she doesn't tell me to push harder. She tells me to rest. When I doubt myself, she reminds me who I am. She listens to me even when I can't find the right words. I swallow, my voice thickening. And the thing that really gets me, she treats me as if I'm enough even when I don't feel like enough. Jimmy whispered, "That's love," and I nodded. "It is," I said. "It's the rare kind, the kind I didn't think I would ever experience." For a moment, I could hear the sound of cameras adjusting. That mechanical clicking echoed through the studio like a heartbeat, a reminder that the world was recording every single second. But for the first time in my career, I didn't worry about how the world would react. I just wanted to speak. Jimmy slowly sat back, studying me the way a friend studies another friend, concerned, curious, protective. "How long have you kept this inside?" he asked. "Years," I answered without hesitation. "I've loved quietly for years." I stayed silent because I didn't want her life to be destroyed by my fame. I didn't want her to be hated just because she has a place in my heart. The audience shifted, not uncomfortably, but emotionally. You could feel empathy radiating from them like heat. There were nights, I admitted, when I wanted to shout to the world that I loved her, to stop hiding, to stop pretending I didn't care. But every time I imagined the pressure she might face, I chose silence instead. I thought love meant protecting her by staying away. My eyes stung. It wasn't sadness, it was relief. But I realized something recently. Loving someone shouldn't mean living in fear. Protecting someone shouldn't mean erasing your own happiness. If I want a future with her, if I want marriage, if I want a family, I have to stop acting like I'm not allowed to love. Jimmy covered his mouth, looking up at the ceiling, trying to hold back another wave of emotion. "You're breaking me tonight, Taehyung," he said with a cracked voice. I let out a soft smile, not sad, not apologetic, just human. "I'm breaking myself too," I said, "but sometimes you need to break a little to heal right." The audience clapped slowly, softly, not like a performance, but like support. Their applause didn't feel like noise. It felt like acceptance. Jimmy leaned closer one more time. "So what now?" he asked. Not as a talk show host, but as someone rooting for me, for my happiness. I took a deep breath. I had been waiting to say this not just to Jimmy, but to the world. What happens now is that I'm going to stop living my life based on fear and start living based on love. I don't know when, I don't know how, but someday, when it's safe, I will walk with her publicly. I will hold her hand. I will choose her in front of the world. My voice wavered slightly as I finished. And when that time comes, I hope the world will choose kindness too. The audience rose to their feet, not a loud, standing ovation, but a heartfelt one. I could see tears, smiles, admiration, every emotion possible. And to me, that moment was more powerful than any award I've ever received. Tonight, for the first time in years, I stopped hiding. Tonight, I was finally myself. The standing ovation felt unreal. I had been applauded countless times in my career for performances, awards, achievements, but this one was different. Nobody was clapping because I sang or danced. They were clapping because I finally told the truth. I sat there, trying to breathe normally as the audience slowly settled back into their seats. Jimmy looked at me like he wasn't just interviewing me, he was witnessing a transformation. He didn't rush to the next segment. He didn't cut to commercial. He let the moment live because he understood its weight. And then, with the same softness he had shown from the start, he asked the question I knew would come. Taehyung, does she know you're talking about her right now? For a second, I closed my eyes. It wasn't fear, it was memory. Every private moment I had shared with her flashed through me. The conversations past midnight, the handwritten notes, the small laughter, the comfort of silence, the warmth of understanding. And then the pain of distance, the ache of loving someone quietly. Yes, I answered. She knows, maybe not every detail, but she knows how I feel. Jimmy nodded slowly, absorbing every syllable. Has she ever told you how she feels? I laughed quietly, not because the question was funny, but because the answer was too precious. She has, I said, not loudly, not dramatically, not like a movie or a song. She loves quietly too. She loves in the way she listens to me, in the way she protects my privacy, in the way she never once asked me to choose her publicly. She loves me not by asking for more, but by never asking for too much. The audience sighed, some wiping tears, some gripping the hands of the people next to them. It wasn't heartache, it was admiration. Real love does that to people. Jimmy leaned forward again. Do you think the world will accept her someday? I swallowed hard, looking not at the host, not at the crowd, but at the thought of the world beyond the studio walls. I hope so, I said honestly. But I don't know. People have deep emotions when it comes to idols. They feel like they know us. They feel like they own a part of us. And in some ways, I owe them everything. Without them, I wouldn't be who I am. But sometimes they forget that I'm not just an artist. I'm also a man with a heart that wants to love and be loved. I could feel my jaw tighten as I continued. I don't want her to wake up every day scared because people discovered her identity. I don't want her to be hated because she means something to me. She doesn't deserve pain for simply loving me. Jimmy didn't interrupt. He didn't add commentary. He just listened the way real friends do. And that's why I've waited, I said. I wasn't waiting for her to prove something. I was waiting for the world to be ready. And maybe it isn't yet. Maybe it won't be for a long time. But I believe in love enough to hope that someday my fans will want me to be happy even if my happiness comes from someone they don't expect. Jimmy nodded, tears another time threatening to fall. The audience sat perfectly still. And what about you? He asked quietly. Are you ready? The question hit me harder than I expected. Was I ready? I had spent years hiding, protecting, worrying, calculating. I lived every day afraid that the thing I treasured most could become the thing destroyed most easily. But tonight, speaking my truth out loud, something inside me had changed forever. I'm ready to live honestly, I said. I'm ready to build a future without pretending I don't need love. I'm ready to stop holding back my happiness because of fear. I paused. Then I said the clearest sentence of the night. I want to marry for love, not secrecy. The room broke not into screams, but into emotion. Some people were crying, some were smiling, some were holding their breath, but no one questioned me. No one tried to pull me back into the image the world had created. For once, everyone saw Kim Taehyung, the man. Jimmy took a deep breath, trying to regain composure, but then he chuckled in disbelief. You came here tonight to break the world in the most beautiful way possible, he said with a shaky smile. I smiled back, a real one, the kind I only show when I feel safe. Maybe the world needed to break a little, I answered, and maybe I did too. Jimmy rubbed his face, still overwhelmed. Can I ask one more thing? He said cautiously. If she's watching right now, what would you tell her? My heart stopped for a second, then beat louder than anything. I wasn't speaking to a camera anymore. I was speaking to one person, the only person who could hear the words differently than everyone else. If you're watching, I said slowly, I hope you know that I'm done being afraid. I'm choosing you not just in my heart, but in my life. I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know how hard it will be, but I want you to stay with me. I want the future we talked about. I want the life we dreamed of. I want it all with you. It was silent, completely silent. Then I finished my voice barely above a whisper. You are my future, and I'm not hiding it anymore. Jimmy looked away because if he made eye contact with me, he was going to break again. The audience sat frozen, stunned by the vulnerability they had never seen from me before. And then the applause returned, slow, emotional, rising like a wave. I breathed in deeply, and in that moment, I realized something. For the first time in my career, I wasn't scared of the world. The applause went on for so long that even Jimmy didn't try to stop it. I didn't bow, I didn't wave, I didn't gesture politely the way I usually do during interviews. I just sat there, letting the sound wash over me, not as an idol being celebrated, but as a human being finally understood. It was overwhelming in a way I didn't expect. My chest felt too full. For years, I thought that speaking honestly about love would destroy me. I never imagined it could feel like healing. Eventually, the audience calmed again, and Jimmy cleared his throat softly. Taehyung, I want to show you something, he said. He gestured to the backstage screen, and one of the staff members gave a signal to the technical team. The lights dimmed slightly, and the giant monitor on the wall behind us turned on. My heart froze for a moment. I didn't know what was coming. At first, it was footage of concerts, sold out stadiums, millions of purple lights, oceans of fans holding banners with my name. Then it shifted to clips of me laughing during interviews, crying during emotional moments on stage, hugging fans, comforting members, talking about my dreams. It wasn't a highlight reel of success, it was a highlight reel of me. Then the narration started. Jimmy's voice, soft and emotional. Taehyung isn't just a global superstar. He's someone who loves deeply, who cares deeply, who feels deeply, and tonight we get to remember that he's human, just like us. The audience sniffed quietly. Even I felt my throat tighten again. Another clip played, one I didn't expect. A moment from years ago, backstage during a world tour. I had been so exhausted, I didn't realize the camera was nearby. I sat with my head in my hands, my voice soft and shaky as I said to a staff member, "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be allowed to love someone without destroying them." Hearing my past self say that hit me like a punch to the chest. I had forgotten that moment, or maybe I forced myself to forget. The screen faded back to live studio footage and the lights raised again. I looked down, unable to speak for a few seconds. The audience stayed silent, giving me space. "I didn't show you that to embarrass you," Jimmy said gently. "I showed it because the world needs to understand the cost of fame, the parts idols aren't allowed to talk about." I nodded slowly. "Thank you," I whispered. He hesitated before asking the next question. "Do you ever feel angry at the world for taking away your right to love freely?" That question hit a deep part of me, a place I never speak from publicly. I let the honesty come, even if it was messy. "I used to be angry," I said. "There were days I resented everything. I would think, why do I have to choose between love and my career? Why do I have to lose something beautiful just because I'm loved by many?" I felt trapped inside my own success. The audience listened with an intensity that made the room feel tiny. But over time, I continued. The anger changed. I realized the world didn't take my freedom. I gave it up. I chose to protect my career. I chose to protect the people I love. I chose silence. It hurt, but it was my decision. Jimmy nodded. "And now?" "And now," I said with a soft smile, "I'm choosing differently." For a moment, Jimmy sat back, as if trying to absorb the weight of the entire night. Then he laughed, not mockingly, but in disbelief. "I don't think I've ever seen anyone walk into this show and decide to change their whole life on live television." I laughed too, but there was still trembling in my voice. "I didn't plan this. I didn't rehearse it. I didn't talk to my team about it. I just reached a point where hiding hurt more than telling the truth." Our Oz Jimmy put down his pen and the cue cards as if he were symbolically throwing away the script. "Taehyung, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to," he said carefully. "But I want to ask you something personal, not for headlines, not for ratings, just as a friend." I nodded. "Ask anything." "If you had to choose right now," he said slowly, "between protecting your image or protecting your love, which one would you choose?" My mind didn't hesitate. My heart didn't hesitate. The answer came out before I could overthink it. "Love," I said, "every time. I don't want to live a life where I protect a career but lose the person who gives me something worth coming home to." You could hear people crying softly in the studio. I didn't look away this time. I didn't apologize. I didn't shrink myself to fit what people expected me to be. I will always be grateful to my fans, I said. They changed my life. They gave me everything I have. But love is not something I want to give up again. Not for anyone, not even for the world. Jimmy exhaled with a shaky smile. You are going to make headlines everywhere. Maybe, I said, but for once, I'm okay with the world talking about the real me. And then Jimmy did something he rarely does on air. He stood from his desk, walked toward the sofa, and sat right next to me. The audience gasped but stayed quiet. He put a hand on my shoulder, not for the camera, not for ratings, but as a friend who understood that my confession wasn't fame driven but soul driven. You deserve love, Taehyung. You deserve a future where you don't have to hide. Those words hit me harder than expected. Tears blurred my vision before I could stop them, not dramatic, not loud, just real. I didn't wipe them away immediately. I didn't hide them. I let them fall. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to cry for my own happiness. I never expected the studio lights to feel this heavy. Not after all these years of performing, winning awards, speaking in front of millions, but tonight wasn't like a concert or a fan meeting or a movie premiere. Tonight, every word I said seemed to echo beyond the stage into the world, into the hearts of people who had been with me since the beginning. And walking back from the emotional moment with Jimmy, I felt every camera in the room silently waiting to see what I would say next, almost like the entire world was holding its breath. I took another sip of water, trying to stop my hands from trembling. I've always been confident, relaxed, chill, even during pressure. But tonight, I wasn't just Taehyung from BTS. I wasn't V performing on stage. I was Kim Taehyung, a man trying to speak his truth even if it felt terrifying. Jimmy still looked emotional, but now he was smiling one of those supportive smiles that made me feel safe enough to keep going. He said softly, "You don't have to share more if it's too personal." A part of me wanted to stop there, to laugh it off, change the topic, choose the safe path. It would have been easy. But I thought of everything the fans had given me over the years: love, patience, loyalty, even when my life didn't always belong to them. And suddenly, hiding didn't feel right anymore. I wanted them to hear me. I wanted them to understand me. Not just the idol they watch through screens, but the person I actually am. "It's okay," I answered. "I want to say it." My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated myself for that for a second. But maybe vulnerability isn't weakness. Maybe it's human. I inhaled slowly before I spoke again. When you're known all over the world, love becomes complicated. People expect you to belong to them forever. But I've realized I can't live my whole life afraid of what people will say. I don't want to be scared of love. I could hear the quiet gasp from the live audience. Not dramatic, but the kind where people suddenly become fully awake, fully present. I looked down for a moment, then forced myself to raise my head again. "I'm not announcing anything," I continued, making sure I didn't sound careless or misleading. "I'm not getting married right now, but I am searching for someone who understands that I'm a person first before I'm an artist. Someone who doesn't care about the fame or the rumors or the noise. Someone who will walk with me through everything." I paused again, My manager was somewhere backstage, probably either crying or having a panic attack, maybe both. The internet was definitely exploding right now, but I didn't regret a single word. Jimmy leaned forward and whispered, "You've earned the right to love Taehyung." The way he said it made something inside me collapse. All the hidden pressure, all the guilt, all the fear of disappointing fans, it poured out of me without mercy. I felt my eyes burn again as I whispered back, "I just hope people understand." There was a moment of silence, so real you could almost touch it. Then something happened that I didn't expect. The audience, hundreds of people sitting shoulder to shoulder, began clapping. Not loud, not chaotic. A slow, respectful applause that somehow felt like a hug, a reassurance, a message without words that said, "We hear you, we understand." And just like that, the world didn't feel so heavy anymore. I smiled, not the polite idol smile, not the professional smile I've trained all my life to maintain. A real smile, warm, relieved, shaky, but honest. I looked straight into the camera, knowing millions would be watching, live and later. To the fans, thank you for loving me. I hope someday you'll support me when I love someone too. My voice faded, but the emotion stayed. Jimmy wiped another tear with a laugh of disbelief. "I can't cry anymore. Stop. Oh my God, this is beautiful." Everyone laughed, including me. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't laughing to hide anything. For once, everything felt light. And yet, deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. The decision to open this part of myself would change everything: my career, my image, my relationship with the public. It was scary, but it was also freeing. Whether the world embraced me or criticized me, I was finally living as myself. The camera zoomed in closer as Jimmy prepared to take the conversation even deeper. I took a breath, wiped my eyes one last time, and braced myself for the next question because the biggest reveal of the night was still ahead. Before the show ends, before the lights fade and the applause becomes another memory, I want to say something directly to the people who have been watching me all this time, the ones who love me, support me, believe in me, and carry me through every chapter of my life. I know tonight was emotional. I know hearing me talk about love, about my future, about the possibility of having a partner might have surprised you, scared you, or maybe even hurt you. And if it did, I'm sorry. Hurting you is the last thing I ever want to do. But I also hope you felt the honesty in my voice. For so many years, I've been afraid to be human in front of the world. I always thought I had to be perfect to smile even when I was breaking, to reassure everyone even when I needed to be reassured myself, to carry expectations heavier than anyone could ever imagine. But being perfect isn't living, and love isn't something meant to be locked away out of fear. I'm not getting married today, or next month, or any moment soon. I'm not making an announcement. I'm not hiding anything. I'm simply saying that I won't be afraid to love anymore. I won't reject happiness just because the world might misunderstand it. I hope when that day comes, whether it's tomorrow or years from now, you'll stand by me the same way I've always tried to stand by you. The older I get, the more I realize that music, fame, awards, records, none of it matters without someone to share life with, someone to laugh with, someone to cry with, someone to come home to. That doesn't mean my love for my fans will ever fade. You are a part of my heart. You changed my destiny. You helped me become the man I am now, someone brave enough to choose truth over fear. I know there will be noise online after this. Rumors, speculation, debates, opinions, but I'm not scared anymore. Because tonight I spoke as myself. And maybe the world will finally see me for who I really am. Not a fantasy, not a perfect image, but a man with dreams, scars, and emotions just like anyone else. So, to everyone watching from every country, every language, every generation, thank you. Thank you for letting me grow. Thank you for staying even when I change. Thank you for choosing me even when it wasn't easy. I don't take your love for granted. I never have and I never will. Thank you for listening. Thank you for understanding. And no matter where life takes me from here, you will always be a part of my story.